Hello everyone. Allow me to quickly bring up a quote that comes from the New York Times in which it says, "They wanted to remove us from society," a Christian farmer said to the Hindu extremist. Hello, my name is Adrian Castillo and today I'm going to argue on why you should try to advocate for change for Christians living in South Asia facing persecution for their faith. In order to argue that claim, I'm going to discuss three main points. In the first point, I'm going to talk about what is Christian persecution and what are the examples of it in South Asia. Number two, on why Christian persecution exists in South Asia. And number three, solutions we can do to help Christians facing persecution in South Asia. I am qualified to deliver this speech and argue these claims since I have researched into evidence from non-governmental organizations such as Open Doors. I have researched online reports broken down by online journalists. And number three, I have researched into certified government reports that do discuss and display evidence of Christian persecution in South Asia. So without further ado, allow me to go to my first point, which is what is Christian persecution and what are the examples of it in South Asia. So in order to clear up what Christian persecution is and what I want you to think about, I'm going to bring up a definition that comes from Open Doors, that is a non-governmental organization that aims to help Christians facing persecution. They state that Christian persecution is any hostility experienced as a result of proclaiming the name of Jesus. In other words, if you simply follow the Christian doctrine and try to practice the Christianity and you face any type of violence, any type of restriction from that holds you back to participate in worshiping that faith, you're facing Christian persecution. So, in order to prove that Christian persecution is real, I'm going to bring up evidence from Open Doors, the same opendoors.org website, in which they say 2 in 5 Christians are persecuted in Asia. That is a horrible evidence to find out, but I had to say it because it's the truth, so we have to not be afraid to find out the truth. So in order to prove that Christian persecution is real in South Asia, I had to look up a website that is called Catholic News Agency, in which they say a 2019 report called Persecuted and Forgotten, it stated 12 countries where Christian persecution was most severe, and they list the countries, and they are Iraq, Egypt, Nigeria, Central African Republic, Sudan, India, Pakistan, Burma, Sri Lanka, China, the Philippines, and North Korea. And as you can tell by listing those countries, there are South Asian countries that are listed there, and it is horrible to find out that yes, that Christian persecution is real in South Asian countries. So to further prove the horror of Christian persecution in South Asia, once again from the same website, CatholicNewsAgency.com, they state that the situation for Christians has that most in South and East Asia, this is now the regional hotspot for persecution, taking over the honor from the Middle East, stated a report on global Christian persecution by the group Aid to the Church in Need. So after proving that Christian persecution is real and what are the examples of it, I am now going to transition to my next point, which is I will discuss why it is happening in South Asians to begin with. So my second main point is this: Christian persecution exists because governments in South Asians enact intolerant and discriminatory laws since they are fascist, or they want to maintain the majority rule by favoring their official state religion. In order to prove that main point, I had to get evidence from the New York Times, in which they state anti-Christian vigilantes are sweeping through villages, storming churches, burning Christian literature, attacking schools, and assaulting worshippers. In many cases, the police and members of India's governing party are helping them. Government documents and dozens of interviews revealed. In other words, the question why Christian persecution exists in South Asia, well, there you have it. The government of India, for example, was behind it since they were tipping off, or they were just helping these vigilantes attack these Christian communities in many areas, whether it was just innocent individuals or innocent preachers or just buildings in general. So to further prove that why persecution happens, according to a report called Limitations on Minorities, Religious Freedom in South Asia, it states that this report begins by presenting an overview of limitations faced by individuals in South Asians who want to convert away from the dominant religious tradition. In other words, that report is basically saying that the government in South Asia and in these countries are trying to find ways to incentivize people from not trying to convert away, because that lets you know that they have an agenda behind all of this, that they just don't want to lose power, or they don't want to allow people to convert away from the religion. So they're going to do anything in their power to try to target a lot of specific Christian communities. And what is the proof of that I have? Well, so I had to go to a website, once again, Open Doors, to prove that governments can do this in South Asia. So Open Doors states that Pakistan's notorious blasphemy laws target religious minorities, including non-Muslims, but affect the Christian minority in particular. So there you have it. There's evidence that in Pakistan, which is a South Asian country, they target Christians in particular. And to further prove that these reports are backed up by evidence, and that the South Asian countries target Christians in particular, another report by the Pew Research Center, they state that since the Chinese president came into power in 2013, the government has tightened control over Christian activities outside of registered venues, and shut down churches that refuse to register. In other words, if the Christian churches in China refuse to do any shady work or try to listen to the government, they will shut down and they would target and harass the churches. So although this has been dark and it may sound hopeless that in these countries that the governments are too powerful to be stopped, I believe that there are solutions and there is evidence to support that claim. So finally, in my third point, I'm going to discuss that we need to donate or help non-governmental organizations or political organizations that help Christians facing persecutions and awareness and participate in protests that aim to address the problem of Christian persecution. So to further prove that why you need to support non-government organizations such as Open Doors, well, we have to look on what they stand for to begin with. So Open Doors is a private organization that wants to help Christian people facing persecution, and it comes from their own website, in which they say they work in more than 70 countries supplying Bibles, training church leaders, providing practical support, emergency relief, and supporting Christians who suffer persecution and discrimination for their faith. So that's a great organization to keep in mind with, and really research and try to help them any way you can. And if that may not be enough, we can also support political organizations such as listed by the UCS.nd.edu, in which they have stated that there's political organizations in Pakistan that aim to help Christians facing discriminations such as kidnappings, forced conversions, and false accusations under the blasphemy law that they have. So that's great news that there's help for these Christian minorities in Pakistan, and that website clearly proves that. And as we can support these type of organizations, we can also protest and hit the streets to raise awareness of this issue. So I just want to clearly state that protests work, and according to the Atlantic.com, they state that in the short term, protests can work to a degree that they can scare authorities in changing their behavior. So knowing that protests can work, what can we know about who's organizing protests that target and aim to raise awareness of Christian persecution in South Asia? Well, I'm glad you asked. There is, according to the British AsianChristians.org, they list particular protests that aim to address it, which they state, in a powerful display of solidarity, South Asian Christians are coming together to raise their voices against the alarming riots and persecution that continues to afflict communities and their homelands. So there you have it. There is hope. We can come together and protest and raise awareness, like go to our own country's governments near it and protest to raise the voice of the unheard Christians that are facing persecution. We can support these political and non-governmental organizations. So after discussing what Christian persecution is and what are the examples of it, after discussing why it exists, after now listing solutions that we can do to help Christians facing persecution, I believe that it's now time to help these people, because they're humans and we must take care of them, because wherever there is evil and injustice, we must stop it at all costs, because we would never want it to happen in our own countries, because we value freedom, and I believe that they're just the best thing we can do for them. So I hope you had a great time listening to me. So thank you for watching. I hope you have a great day.